The waves crashed softly against the shore, the scent of salt and paradise lingering in the air. A dream honeymoon in Bali, sunsets, champagne, and whispered promises. But by sunrise on the third day, the bride was gone. No struggle. No witnesses. No signs of forced entry. Just an empty bed, and a single crimson stain near the cliffs. Had she fallen? Had someone taken her? Or had the man she trusted with her life turned into her worst nightmare? The world believed Michael Donovan was a grieving husband. The police believed he was a liar. But when a text message surfaced from Lena's phone, "Help me. He's lying," the case took a deadly turn. Who was lying? Where was Lena? And why did this feel so eerily familiar? Because this wasn't the first time Michael had lost a wife on their honeymoon, and it wouldn't be the last. Would Lena be found before it was too late? Or was someone else pulling the strings in a deadly game of revenge? Lena and Michael Donovan had the kind of love that made people jealous. High school sweethearts, they had weathered everything. College, long distance, job changes, even personal tragedies that could have torn them apart. Michael, ever the ambitious and charming go-getter, had won Lena over with his grand gestures and unwavering devotion. Lena, the pragmatic and kind-hearted dreamer, had always been his rock, supporting his ambitions while chasing her own dreams. Their love wasn't perfect, but it was deep, built on years of trust, passion, and resilience. They had seen each other at their lowest, Michael after losing his father unexpectedly, Lena after surviving a near-fatal car accident that left her questioning everything. Yet, they had always found their way back to each other. After nearly a decade together, their wedding was a celebration of endurance, of a love that had refused to wither. The ceremony was lavish yet intimate, filled with laughter, stolen glances, and whispered promises of forever. Friends and family marveled at how they had stood the test of time, surviving every challenge thrown their way. There had been arguments, doubts, and moments of fear, but their love had always proven stronger. Michael had surprised Lena with personal vows that spoke of their journey. The late-night phone calls during their long-distance years, the time they spent apart to focus on careers, the pain of personal loss, and the joy of finding each other again. He reminisced about the time he almost lost her when she moved across the country for work, and how he had driven for hours just to surprise her with a simple dinner date. Lena had held on to every word, tears brimming in her eyes as she remembered those moments of unwavering devotion. Lena, in turn, had promised him unwavering support, even when life got difficult, even when everything else crumbled. She spoke of Michael's strength, his ability to push forward despite setbacks, and how she admired him for never giving up on them. She recalled the nights when he had been consumed by work stress, and she had simply held him, whispering words of encouragement, reminding him that they were a team. Their love had been built on the kind of resilience that people dream about, and in that moment, under the glow of fairy lights and surrounded by their loved ones, it felt unbreakable. Before we continue, please take a moment to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to stay updated. Your support means the world to us, and we're truly grateful to have you here. Thank you. Their honeymoon to Bali was meant to be the crowning jewel, a well-earned escape into paradise, where they could bask in the warmth of the sun in each other's arms. They planned to visit hidden beaches, explore the local culture, and finally take the time to enjoy each other without distractions. The first 2 days were blissful. Moonlit walks on the beach, lazy afternoons by the infinity pool, and laughter that echoed through the walls of their secluded villa. But paradise had other plans. By the third day, Lena was gone. Michael woke up to an empty bed in their private villa. At first, he thought she was getting breakfast. The scent of her perfume still lingered in the sheets, and her sandals were missing from their usual spot by the door. But as minutes turned to hours, worry crept in. He walked out onto the villa's balcony, scanning the shoreline, expecting to see her waving at him from the beach. Nothing. Confused, he checked the bathroom, the private pool, even the resort's restaurant. The staff hadn't seen her that morning. A dull panic started to gnaw at him as he jogged toward the beach, his breath growing unsteady. Had she gone for a swim? Had she taken a morning stroll and lost her way? He ran back to their villa, searching frantically. Her belongings were all untouched, her suitcase unzipped, her passport still in the drawer. Her phone, usually by her side, lay on the nightstand, its battery nearly dead. His stomach churned as dread set in. Something was very wrong. He sprinted to the front desk, demanding security footage, his voice rising with desperation. His heart pounded as the receptionist hesitated, glancing nervously at the manager before responding. "Sir, we checked our records. There's no sign of your wife leaving the resort. No security logs, no front gate check-ins. Are you sure she didn't mention going somewhere?" Michael clenched his fists. "I would know if she planned something. This isn't right." His voice cracked as fear settled deeper into his bones. The manager motioned for security to review the surveillance footage. Minutes felt like hours as they fast-forwarded through the night. The footage showed nothing. No forced entry, no shadowy figures, no Lena slipping away unnoticed. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. "That's impossible," Michael shouted, gripping the counter. "She was here when I fell asleep." The staff exchanged uneasy glances. The silence was suffocating. Then a woman at the concierge desk whispered, "Sir, sometimes people leave without wanting to be found. Are you sure she didn't?" "No." Michael slammed his hand down, shaking his head violently. "She wouldn't just leave me. Something happened to her." And then, as fear fully gripped him, a terrifying realization settled in. Lena was gone. And then, as fear fully gripped him, a terrifying realization settled in. Lena was gone. When the local police got involved, Michael's nightmare worsened. No one had seen Lena leave, there were no signs of forced entry, and her belongings, including her passport, were still in the villa. The authorities suspected she had wandered off, but Michael knew Lena wouldn't do that. She was cautious, always letting him know where she was going, especially in an unfamiliar place. As the officers combed through the villa, Michael noticed details he hadn't before. The slightly ajar back door leading to the private beach, a damp towel that hadn't been there the night before, a faint, almost imperceptible scuff mark on the floor near the entrance. Michael pleaded with the police to investigate further, but they remained skeptical. "People leave unexpectedly all the time," one officer remarked dismissively. Maybe she had second thoughts about the marriage. Maybe she needed space. Michael's frustration grew. Lena wouldn't have left him, not like this. And then, a chilling realization struck him. If she hadn't left by choice, then someone had taken her. Then came the chilling discovery. Hotel staff found a bloodstain near the cliffs a mile from the resort. It was small, barely noticeable on the jagged rocks, but enough to send the case spiraling in a dark direction. Investigators swarmed the area, combing the surroundings for any other traces of Lena. The discovery of a torn piece of fabric snagged on a thorny bush just inches away from the cliff's edge added to the growing tension. The pattern on the fabric matched the sundress Lena had worn the night before. Suddenly, Michael was no longer just a worried husband. He was a suspect. The police questioned him relentlessly, dissecting every moment of their honeymoon. Had they argued? Had she seemed distant? Did he ever lay a hand on her? Michael felt his world collapsing as doubt filled the faces of those around him. He pleaded with them to keep searching, to find more evidence, but the whispers of his past started to emerge. The police dug deeper, uncovering an old story, one about an ex-girlfriend who had died under strange circumstances. Though ruled an accident, the details felt eerily similar to Lena's case. The woman, Caroline Hayes, had been Michael's college sweetheart. She had fallen from a hiking trail in the Appalachian Mountains during a weekend getaway. Michael had been the one to call for help, but by the time authorities arrived, Caroline's body had been swept away by the river below. The case had been closed due to lack of evidence, but whispers remained. Some believed she hadn't fallen by accident. Now, with Lena missing, investigators couldn't ignore the parallels. Both women had disappeared in remote locations, both under Michael's watch, and both without a trace. Michael felt the walls closing in as the detectives pressed him further. Did he and Lena argue that night? Had she expressed any doubts about their marriage? Could he recall his exact movements from the evening before? His answers were met with skepticism. The once sympathetic officers now eyed him with suspicion. The story of Caroline resurfacing in the media only made things worse. Had Michael lost another woman to a tragic accident, or was there something far more sinister beneath the surface? The weight of suspicion pressed down on him like a vice, each new revelation pulling him deeper into a nightmare. Whispers circulated through the resort staff, hushed conversations speculating about his involvement. The media quickly picked up the story, broadcasting headlines that painted him as a man with a deadly pattern. A man whose wives vanished under chillingly similar circumstances. Detectives interrogated him for hours, their questions sharp and relentless. Could he explain why he had chosen such remote honeymoon destinations? Why were there never any witnesses when these tragedies occurred? Each response only seemed to tighten the noose around him, and doubt crept into his own mind. What if he had overlooked something? What if there was a part of the story he didn't yet understand? Then, as he sat alone in the dimly lit interrogation room, a single thought sent shivers down his spine. If he wasn't responsible for Lena's disappearance, then someone else was. And that someone wanted him to take the fall. The police questioned him relentlessly. They dug into his past, and whispers of an ex-girlfriend he had left heartbroken surfaced. An ex who had died under strange circumstances years ago. Though it had been ruled an accident, people wondered if Michael was hiding something. And then, Lena's best friend received a text from her. "Help me. He's lying." The message arrived in the dead of night, jolting Lena's best friend awake. The words on the screen sent a cold shiver down her spine. "Help me. He's lying." She stared at the sender's name in disbelief. Lena. But that was impossible. The police had already retrieved Lena's phone from the villa, locked away as evidence. How could she be sending messages? Heart pounding, she immediately called back, but the line was dead. A second later, another message appeared. "You have to find me before he does." Panic set in. Was Lena alive, desperately reaching out from somewhere unknown? Or was someone else behind this? A cruel trick designed to twist the knife even deeper? If Lena was in danger, why hadn't she contacted the police? And if she was truly out there somewhere, who was the he she was running from? Authorities traced the signal, hoping for a breakthrough, and it led them to a rundown fishing village an hour away. The locals were tight-lipped, hesitant to speak to outsiders. Inside a dilapidated hut on the edge of the docks, they found a cell phone buried under a pile of old nets. It was Lena's. But there was no sign of Lena. Authorities traced the signal, and it led them to a rundown fishing village an hour away. The village, shrouded in an eerie silence, seemed almost abandoned, its wooden shacks swaying gently in the salty breeze. Inside a dilapidated hut on the edge of the docks, they found a cell phone buried under a pile of old nets. The screen was cracked, its battery drained, but the phone was unmistakably Lena's. Next to it, half buried in the dirt, was a torn piece of fabric. A familiar shade of yellow, identical to the dress Lena had been wearing the night she disappeared. A sense of dread washed over the authorities as they scoured the tiny space. A rusted lantern flickered dimly in the corner, illuminating scratch marks on the wooden floor. Someone had been here recently, but where were they now? And more importantly, where was Lena? Then, from the far side of the hut, they found something chilling. An empty bowl, a spoon resting beside it, and a hastily written note scratched onto the wall. "Not much time. He's close. No Lena, but she had been here, and someone had been with her. No Lena." Desperate, Michael reached out to an old friend, Claire Thompson, a private investigator who had helped people find missing persons before. Claire had always been sharp, her instincts razor-edged, but even she wasn't prepared for what she found. The more she dug, the more disturbing the connections became. She uncovered financial records showing large cash withdrawals from Michael's account in the weeks leading up to the honeymoon. Who was he paying? And why? Even stranger, a call had been placed from Michael's phone to an unlisted number in Greece, the same location where his first wife, Naomi, had disappeared years ago. Then, a name surfaced, Elias Stravos, a private mercenary with a reputation for making people disappear. Claire's gut churned. Had Michael been planning something all along? Or was someone else manipulating the pieces? Just when she thought she had seen everything, she found something even more chilling. A photograph, hidden among Michael's old documents, of Lena and Naomi together, smiling. Lena and Naomi had known each other. Michael had never mentioned that. And suddenly Claire realized this case was far more twisted than she had ever imagined. If Lena and Naomi knew each other, then Lena's disappearance might not have been a coincidence. What if Lena had known more about Naomi's past than she had let on? What if she had been hiding something from Michael all along? Claire dug further, searching for any link between the two women beyond the photograph. Then she found something chilling. A series of emails sent from Lena's account to an unknown recipient weeks before the honeymoon. The messages were cryptic but suggested Lena had been investigating Naomi's past. One email stood out. "I know what happened in Greece. I know the truth. If anything happens to me, you know who to look at." Claire's breath hitched. Who had Lena been warning? And what truth had she uncovered? Before she could process the implications, her phone rang. A private number. A distorted voice on the other end whispered, "You're looking in the wrong place. Walk away before it's too late." Claire's heart pounded. This wasn't just about a missing woman anymore. It was about a secret that someone was willing to kill for. Michael had been married before. He had never told Lena. His first wife, Naomi, had vanished under eerily similar circumstances on their honeymoon in Greece. Michael had claimed she drowned while swimming alone, but her body had never been found. Now, Lena had disappeared in the same way. Was history repeating itself? Or was someone trying to frame Michael? A resort worker came forward with a shocking revelation. He had seen Lena arguing with a man the night before she disappeared. But it wasn't Michael. The man was tall, wearing a dark hoodie, and appeared agitated. Witnesses recalled how Lena had tried to walk away, but he grabbed her arm, pulling her back forcefully. The worker, hesitant at first, finally admitted he had overheard bits of their conversation. Lena had said something about not wanting to do this anymore, and not letting him control her. The mysterious man had responded with a chilling whisper. "You don't have a choice. You never did." The police scrambled to identify the stranger, but before they could make any progress, another shocking twist emerged. The same worker who had come forward was found unconscious outside the resort, a deep wound on his head, his pockets turned inside out. Someone had silenced him. Had he known too much? Was Lena in deeper trouble than anyone had realized? And most disturbingly, who was trying so hard to keep the truth buried? It was a local man, someone known for being involved in shady dealings. The police tracked him down, only to find him dead. Stabbed, Lena's name written on a piece of paper in his pocket. The body was found in a dark alley near the outskirts of the village, his hands clutching a broken cell phone, the screen shattered beyond repair. The phone logs revealed multiple outgoing calls to an unknown number, the last one made just minutes before his death. Beside the corpse, investigators found a folded note tucked into his jacket. It read, "Too late, she knows the truth." The discovery sent a chill down Michael's spine. If Lena's name was on the paper, did that mean she had been in contact with this man? Had he been helping her, or was he another player in the tangled web of deception? More disturbingly, if he had been silenced, was Lena next? The situation had just escalated from a mysterious disappearance to something far more sinister. Someone was erasing every lead, one by one. What was going on? Then Michael received a letter, no postage, no return address. Inside it read, "You took her from me. Now you'll know how it feels." Michael's hands trembled as he reread the words, his mind racing. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but the message was clear. This was personal. His heart pounded in his chest as he scanned the envelope for any clues, but there was nothing. No sender. No indication of where it had come from. A cold realization crept up his spine. Could this be about Naomi? Had someone out there believed he was responsible for his first wife's disappearance and now sought revenge? Or was it about Lena? If so, did this mean she was alive, or was it a grim confession that he would never see her again? He rushed to Claire, shoving the letter into her hands. "This changes everything," she muttered, her eyes dark with concern. "If someone wanted you to suffer, they're playing a long game. We need to find out who sent this, and fast." Just then Michael's phone buzzed, an unknown number. He hesitated before answering, but when he did, all he heard was a low whisper on the other end. "It's already begun." And then the line went dead. "You took her from me. Now you'll know how it feels." Michael realized someone was seeking revenge. Was it about Naomi? Was there someone out there who believed Michael had killed his first wife and was now making him suffer? Just when Michael thought he had uncovered the truth, Claire made another discovery. Lena had secrets of her own. Before meeting Michael, she had been in an abusive relationship. Her ex, Daniel Cross, had been obsessed with her, refusing to let her go. He had followed her for months after their breakup, showing up at her workplace, leaving threatening messages on her car, and even breaking into her apartment once. Lena had eventually obtained a restraining order against him, but he vanished before he could be served. As Claire dug deeper, she discovered that Daniel had legally changed his name 2 years before Lena's disappearance. His new identity? David Carlisle, a name that appeared multiple times in the resort's guest list during the week of Lena's honeymoon. The realization sent chills down Claire's spine. Could it be that Daniel had orchestrated this entire thing, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? Had he been lurking in the shadows all along, waiting to exact revenge? If so, what had he done to Lena, and was she still alive? He had disappeared years ago, but whispers said he had changed his name, vanished into obscurity. Could he be the one behind Lena's disappearance? Was he the one sending messages? Security footage from the resort's back entrance revealed something chilling. Lena leaving the villa in the middle of the night, barefoot and looking terrified. She wasn't taken. She ran. But what was even more unsettling was what happened next. Seconds after Lena disappeared into the darkness, another figure emerged from the shadows. A man in dark clothing, following her at a careful distance. His face was obscured by the dim lighting, but his posture was tense, his movements calculated. He didn't chase her outright, he stalked her. The way he moved was unsettling, methodical, deliberate. He knew exactly where she was going. Each time Lena hesitated, glancing over her shoulder, he slowed just enough to avoid detection, yet never losing sight of her. Then, something unexpected happened. A second figure appeared from the opposite side of the path, moving toward Lena with a sense of urgency. Unlike the stalker, this man's face was partially visible under the flickering resort lights. He was dressed similarly, but his stance lacked the careful precision of the first man. Was he trying to stop her or save her? Lena turned in terror, realizing she was trapped between the two. Her voice barely registered on the footage, an urgent, breathless whisper, before she darted toward the dense jungle bordering the resort. The second man lunged after her, but the first figure, the true predator, remained in the shadows, watching, waiting. Who was he? And had he been waiting for this moment all along? As investigators enhanced the footage, a cold realization set in. The man wasn't Michael, and he wasn't any of the resort staff. He was an unidentified figure who had somehow slipped past security undetected. Then, another detail sent shivers down Claire's spine. Just before Lena ran, she turned back toward the villa, her lips moving as if she was saying something. A whisper caught on the audio, barely audible. "He found me." But from whom? Then came the phone call that changed everything. A fisherman found a woman floating near the shore, unconscious but alive. Her body was covered in bruises, her dress torn, as if she had struggled against something or someone. The waves had carried her close to the rocky shoreline, her limbs barely moving as she clung to the edge of consciousness. The fisherman, startled by the sight, immediately called for help. As rescuers pulled her from water, they noticed deep scratches along her arms and a faint mark around her wrist, as if she had been restrained. But the most chilling discovery was the faint imprint of fingers on her neck. Someone had tried to strangle her. As they rushed her to the hospital, Michael received a call from the authorities. The moment he heard the words, "We found her," relief flooded him, but it was short-lived. When he arrived at the hospital, standing over Lena's unconscious body, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. A message had been scrawled onto her palm in a weak, shaky script. Not him, the other one, it was Lena. When she woke up, she whispered 4 words. "Michael tried to kill me." But as the doctors leaned in closer, Lena's breathing became erratic, her eyes flickering with fear. No, wait, it wasn't him," she gasped, her voice hoarse. The room fell silent as confusion settled over everyone. "I thought it was, but it was someone else, someone who looked just like him." Michael, restrained by officers just outside the hospital room, shouted in frustration. "Lena, Tell them the truth. Tears streamed down her face as she tried to piece together the fragments of her shattered memory. He was there, but he wasn't alone. There were two of them. The second one, he had Michael's face. Claire, watching from the hallway, felt her stomach drop. A twin? A double? Or something far worse? The case had just taken another sinister turn. Michael was arrested on the spot, but he swore he was innocent. He begged Claire to keep looking for the truth. Then Claire found a hidden camera in their villa. The footage revealed the real culprit, Naomi. But the footage held an even more horrifying revelation. Naomi wasn't acting alone. As Claire played the grainy, time-stamped videos, she saw Naomi meeting with a man in the villa's private garden. The man's face was partially obscured, but his resemblance to Michael was undeniable. A twin? A doppelganger? Or something far worse? Claire's hands trembled as she paused the video at the exact moment Naomi handed the man an envelope. He opened it, nodding in agreement before disappearing into the shadows. It was a transaction, a deal made in the dark. But for what? The footage continued, showing Lena entering the villa that fateful night. Moments later, the man emerged from the shadows, his movements eerily similar to Michael's. Lena's reaction was instant, pure terror. She tried to flee, but he grabbed her, whispering something into her ear before dragging her into the darkness. Naomi stood in the background, watching with an eerie, satisfied smirk. Claire's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about something much bigger, something Michael had never seen coming. Michael's first wife was alive. She had faked her death, assumed a new identity, and had been plotting her revenge for years. She had been the one sending the messages, manipulating Lena, and making Michael the scapegoat. Don't miss a single twist. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications for the next thrilling chapter.